What is up, Insaners, and welcome to the Game Week 37 deadline stream. Welcome to another stream. We are back with another deadline. It's going to be a very interesting one. It's going to be a very exciting one. We have an hour to go. I'm not really expecting any major news in terms of, any leaked lineups, which probably will help us or will kind of, help our decisions to, make the right set of transfers. I think we're pretty much set in terms of what moves we are making, etc. But welcome to all of you to the stream. And if you have any questions, if you're new around here, if you don't know how it works, you can basically ask any question you want in the comments in the chat below. And I'll try to help you out. The other people in the chat will also kind of try to help you out. And we'll go from there. If you're new around here, please do subscribe to the Insanely Football FPL channel. We do a lot of FPL content. We have a blog as well. We have a podcast as well. We are also there on Instagram, so you can check us on Instagram for any sort of content. And yeah, almost an hour to go, so we won't waste a lot of time. We'll just straight away get into it. Hello KB, hello to you. Welcome to the stream. Pre-Dragmatic, if I've got that name right. Hello to you. Welcome to the stream as well. Hey Brian, hello to you. Welcome to the stream. So KB, you're asking, you have triple captain whom to put on if chasing ranks. So I think the safest option is Erling Haaland. Most of the people are going to captain Erling Haaland. So his effective ownership, like the last couple of weeks, is probably going to be around 200%, maybe slightly more than 200%. So in case if you are chasing, you don't have to go to the Haaland route. It's a big risk because the fact that Haaland, out of all the Man City attackers, is probably expected to start both games. We cannot probably say that for all the other attackers from Man City. It's a risk, but if you're chasing, I think you can go for Fernandes. If you feel that Fernandes has slightly lower upside, I mean, he's been posting really good numbers, but those numbers haven't really translated into FPL points, right? And at the end of the day, we need FPL points. So in case if you feel the Fernandes punt may not be very high upside, may not give you a lot of points, in that scenario, you can also look at a double game week player, a different double game week player, which is basically a Man City player. You have the likes of Mahrez, who out of all the Man City attackers, I can probably say that he's probably, expected to start, or I won't be surprised if he starts both games. So I think that is definitely one option. If you have, let's say if you don't have Alvarez, if you maybe have an Mahrez, sorry, if you don't have a Mahrez, maybe if you have Alvarez, you can also go with Alvarez as a punt. Otherwise, the only other option I'll probably even think of considering is Salah. I think the fixture is really good. I think Aston Villa probably, they don't really have a lot to play for. Their defense is still decent, but Liverpool have to win this game. I mean, if they have to put some pressure on Newcastle and Man United in particular, I think they really have to win this game. And I think Salah will do really well. So I think if you're targeting a single game week player, a slightly safer option, or a single game week player, you go Salah. Otherwise, you go for a Man City option. I'll still say Fernandes is not that high upside personally for me. So that those will be the options. Brian, you're asking, considering Isak's new role, what are your thoughts on playing Trippier over Isak? I think Trippier over Isak is not really out of the realm of possibility. I mean, you won't be doing anything wrong if you go ahead with somebody like a Trippier, for example. We've seen that Isak is probably going to play on the left side, especially Wilson is playing, which I was very surprised that he started both games. He played majority of those two games in the double game week. Now, that could also happen because Newcastle still have something to play for. I mean, they still have to win a game. They still have to get some points. So I think Wilson is definitely going to start. Isak is probably going to, shift to the left. When Wilson is up, Isak probably moves to the center. But we can't really depend on that. So I think you can go for somebody like a Trippier, who we saw that he's been posting some decent numbers. He got a couple of assists as well. We already know that there's a lot of assist potential, a lot of creativity potential in Trippier. There's a slight doubt in terms of Trippier, but I personally don't think so. I think he's either going to start or he's not going to feature at all. So in case if you want to take a chance, you start Trippier. In case if he doesn't feature at all, you have Isak, who's anyways going to come from the bench, because Isak is definitely going to start. I mean, there's no question about that. So overall, I think you can play Trippier. I think there's slightly more potential with Newcastle also probably getting a clean sheet. Could still be tricky because the fact that their opponents really have to go for it. They have to win this particular game, and I think they can obviously concede. Newcastle can definitely concede. That's the risk with Leicester as well. I mean, Leicester have to win, right? They don't have any other options. So you can still take a chance with Trippier. If he doesn't start, Isak comes on from your bench. Mitoma or Wilson bench. If you have to put someone on the bench, I'll definitely put Wilson. I know Mitoma has been very quiet in recent games. He's not been posting some great numbers. He's not been getting a lot of attacking returns as well. So there's a lot of, I mean, you can't really say there's a risk involved with somebody like a Mitoma, but the potential has definitely come down. He's also not looked that dangerous. I mean, Brighton, they definitely looked a little bit overworked. They look a bit leggy. They look a bit tired. Now that may continue because of the fact that they've had so many games and they also have a double this week. So Mitoma may not be the most optimal option to go for, but I think in isolation you would still want to back a double game week player. Come on, I mean, it's the last double game week of the season, and why would you not want to back a double game week player? A lot of people already kind of had that regret last week when Estupinian was benched by a lot of people. Luckily, I was not in a position where I benched Estupinian and they played Trent. Yes, Trent also scored points, but Estupinian outscored Trent, which can also happen this week, right? I mean, somebody like a Mitoma can easily outscore Wilson, considering that there are two bites of the cherry. I understand that one fixture is against Man City, but the other fixture is against Southampton, and Southampton is relegated, right? So they have nothing to play for. I mean, the motivation is dead low, the team is in shatters, and that could be a high scoring game. So I think I'll definitely play Mitoma and bench Wilson. Trippier, March, Mitoma, Watkins, to Estupinian, McAllister, Mahrez, Alvarez for a -8, or just keep Trippier and do a -4. Have Steele also. So basically, you are selling in one of the options, you're selling Trippier, and in the other option, you're keeping Trippier and doing a -4. I personally, I mean, if you want to chase, again, it depends on the objective of this particular week of this particular team that you have right now. Are you chasing in the game? Maybe you are a part of a mini league and you are chasing there. You're probably lagging behind, etc. In case if you're chasing, in case if you want to go a bit aggressive, then you sell Trippier and you do the -8. I think all transfers in isolation are risky options because anyone out of the two, Mahrez, Alvarez, can even be benched for both games, right? I mean, we can't be very surprised if that happens because Pep does Pep things. If Man City win the league against Chelsea, we can see any random team playing against Brighton. I still don't think so that's going to happen because Pep really believes in consistency. So I think keeping that in mind, I think taking the -8 plus you chasing, I think taking out Trippier is a slight risk because his ownership is definitely going to be a lot higher. But I think you can definitely go for this particular option with the -8, and you can absolutely go for it. Sorry, having a bit of a cold, so please excuse my voice and if I start coughing, etc. Going to transfer out Martinelli. Whom can I pick? Either Bruno or Mahrez, or do you have any other options to go for? Start Olise or Trippier? So in case if you're taking out Martinelli, if you have the budget to go to a Bruno, I'll definitely go towards a Bruno. Now, in a scenario where, let's say, again, I come back to the same argument where maybe you're a part of a mini league, maybe you're chasing. If you want to protect your rank, I think Bruno is the option to go for. I think his ownership is going to be decently high. And even if he gets a return or two, we've already seen that happening with Wilson. I mean, Wilson was a massive score last week, but I think he can easily, get some points this week. The fixtures are really good. He has been posting decent numbers. He has been a bit unlucky in terms of, not getting the right returns. We've seen that he's quite creative. We've seen that he's also on penalties. So I think if I'm playing safer, I'll definitely, get Bruno. If I'm playing defensive, Bruno is the one to go for. In a scenario where you're chasing, where you're going aggressive, where you're going against your mini league rivals, where maybe you want to, climb a lot of ranks, etc. I think then in that scenario, Mahrez is the one to go for. He's a higher risk, higher upside move. There's a lot of risk involved because of the fact that Bruno is probably going to get 180 minutes. Mahrez is probably going to get 120, 130. So you're already, taking a player who's probably getting about 50, 60 minutes less. And then you also have the, chance of maybe him getting an early sub, etc., which with a Pep team, I mean, you have to kind of accept that and expect that by now. So yeah, depends on your state in terms of chasing or playing defensive. Defensive is Bruno, chasing is Mahrez. start Olise or Trippier. If the question is in isolation here, I think the better option would still. I mean, Crystal Palace is another team. They don't really have a lot to play for. Fulham are also an attack-minded team. You can say that Olise maybe can get you, some potential, but I still feel Eze is the one to go for if you are playing a Crystal Palace attacker. I think he has more goal threat. Olise is a little bit more creative, so I'll take my chances with the Trippier here. There's potential for a clean sheet. Maybe Newcastle, keep it very tight. It's a home game for Newcastle. Newcastle are traditionally very strong at home. They don't lose a lot of games. They haven't lost a majority of the season, and they're also quite strong defensively at home. So I think going by that logic, I'll start Trippier, and defensive and aggressive, you go Bruno or Mahrez. Hey Soumya, hello to you. Welcome to the stream. Wilson or Jota? I think in isolation, Wilson still looks like the more informed pick. If I'm going for a Liverpool attacker, I think I'll still look at Salah. I think most of what Liverpool is doing right now is either going through Salah or Trent. Now, this is because of the fact that Trent is playing in midfield. He's playing in a different role. That also has kind of changed how Salah has been playing in his positioning and his touch maps and heat maps. So I think if I'm looking at a Liverpool option, it has to be Salah or maybe nobody in terms of the attack. If I'm looking, at other options, let's say like a Jota or a Diaz, I mean, they can always get you a haul, they can always get you a return, but I still feel Salah is the one to go for. So I'll probably go with Wilson. There's always a chance where Wilson maybe, now gets benched. Now that a lot of people are maybe selling him, maybe they're benching him, maybe he gets benched as well. I'm not sure. But considering the fact that Liverpool also, Newcastle also has to win these games or win at least one, I think Wilson will definitely start this one. Maybe benched for the next game. If Newcastle are pretty safe in terms of the top four aspiration, I think Wilson gets benched in the final game, and then Isak plays in the center role. But otherwise, I think Wilson's probably going to start this week, and I think he's definitely the better option out of the two. He's the more informed option. He's also on penalties. Jota is not going to be on penalties. So I think the advantage is with Wilson at the moment. Excuse me. Take out Rashford for Bruno. I've done the same in case if you're okay with the risk, because see, Rashford has had a lot of people who've sold Rashford. His ownership has definitely gone down a bit, but I think still a lot of people do have Rashford, and I think there's definitely an element of risk involved here. There's a high chance that he misses the Bournemouth game, which is the first game of the double game 37, but then he plays the second game, which is the Chelsea game. And with Chelsea, I think we can fairly say that there's a good chance that Man United does get a goal, maybe even 2 goals. Chelsea's defense hasn't looked that strong. Chelsea don't really have anything to play for. They've not had anything to play for quite some time. So I think I'll definitely take my chances. Again, depending on the game state, depending on your team state, I am in a position where I want to catch up on a bit of a rank here. I have lost let's say about 15, 20K in the last 3 or 4 weeks, maybe 5 weeks. And I want to catch up on that. I think top 10K for my own team, my rank is a bit difficult now, but I still want to reach as close as possible. And this is the bet I'm taking. This is the bet I'm willing to take, where I'm taking out Rashford. I'm expecting him to get benched in the first game, even if he plays in the second game. And if he gets a smaller haul, that's the expectation. Let's see what happens. But I think I should be fine if that happens. So if you're going aggressive, that's the move for you. If you are playing safer, then, keep Rashford. I think there's a high chance that he starts the second game. So many of your teams: Edison, Trent, Estopinian, Shaw, McAllister, Salah, Rashford, Mitoma, Isak, Haaland. Please suggest how to bring Bruno. Bank is 1.2 million. So I think there are a couple of ways to get Bruno. One is the straight swap from Salah to Bruno. If you are okay doing that, I mean, it's not the ideal option because Salah has a good fixture this week. He has a good fixture next week. I mean, next week is Southampton. It's captaincy potential game. Anything can happen in that game. He can maybe score a hat-trick. Liverpool can end up scoring 7 or 8 goals. Maybe Liverpool also loses that game. I think anything can happen. But I think that's definitely one option. It's a risky option. There's more to lose here by doing Salah to Bruno, but that's one. The other option is to either take money out of Trent and then upgrade somebody like a Mitoma, for example. I mean, you can get away with having one Brighton player. You can maybe take out McAllister as well and downgrade Trent to a different defender. Basically, upgrade one of Mitoma, McAllister to a Bruno. I think that should also be fine. The other option is you do a Rashford to a Bruno and then try to get some money from somewhere. I'm not sure who's your third striker. If let's say if you have a cheap striker, Greenwood, then that's not an option. But maybe you have a Solanke, maybe you have, I don't know, maybe a, I'm not sure if whether you'll have a Wilson or not, but if you have a workable striker, by that I mean if you have a striker who's probably 6 million, 7 million, maybe you can take money out of that. Those are three options. The straightforward option is Salah to Bruno. Otherwise, you take out money from a tent and then try to make upgrades either from a McAllister Mitoma to a Bruno Fernandes, or a Rashford to a Bruno Fernandes. I think that's also an option. Raya, Trent, Estupinian, Shaw, Botman, March, Fernandes, Rashford, Mitoma, Salah, Haaland, Wilson, Greenwood. Thinking of March to McAllister, sorry, and Wilson to Alvarez. It looks pretty good. Alvarez is a double. I'm expecting him to start at least one, and that's where the confidence, comes a little bit more. Maybe McAllister starts both and does okay. I mean, it's Man City, so it'd be difficult to predict what happens with Brighton, and what kind of team turns up against Brighton. I think that's a bigger concern here, and whether Man City has wrapped up the league, because if they have, I don't think so. They're chasing any records as such, and I think they would still play a decent team because they would want to keep their players a little bit fresh, but also give them match practice, considering the fact that they have an FA Cup final and a Champions League final to play as well. So I think it depends on that, but these moves in isolation are looking pretty decent. Raya or Kepa, I mean, take a chance with Kepa. He's not looking like the number one goalkeeper for Chelsea at the moment. It's probably looking like Mendy. With only 3 games to go for Chelsea, I mean, Mendy could be given a shout, in terms of showing what happens to him next season, whether he's transferred out, whether Chelsea needs a new keeper. Maybe he's going to stay as the number 2 keeper. Maybe he becomes the number 1. So this is probably his time, the next 3 games, to kind of, show not Lampard, but the Chelsea owners and the Chelsea team that he probably deserves a starting place. So I think there's a high chance that Kepa doesn't start both. Maybe he starts one, but then if you have a double game week player, might as well just take a chance with him. I know the fixtures are bad. I mean, they're really, really bad fixtures. If Kepa was a starting goalkeeper, for sure, you would have definitely had that doubt whether to play Raya against a Tottenham, or to play Kepa against Man City and Man United. Both are kind of one is of course trying to win the league, one is of course trying to get into the top 4. So they both have something to play for. They both are having a very serious or set objective. So there the doubts will arise. But in this scenario, Kepa is most likely not going to start anyway. Just take a chance with him. If he gets something, maybe he gets a dodgy clean sheet. You just never know. Maybe he gets a couple of save points as well, and might just outscore Raya. I mean, it's still looking a bit difficult, but just take a chance with Kepa. And in case if he doesn't, start, anyways, Raya comes from the bench. Hello there. Hello to you as well. Welcome to the stream. What are your thoughts on Martial? I don't like him as a pick, to be honest. I think if I'm going for Man United option, sorry, I would look at Rashford. Despite of him being probably out for 1 game, I think there's still potential in Rashford. He's still the best attacker for Man United. He's still scoring, or had scored, a lot of goals. And I think with Rashford in the team, the United attack looks a lot better, looks a lot different. I just don't see that potential with Martial. First, his minutes are a huge problem. Then, even if he gets those minutes, I mean, he's definitely not going to play 90 minutes for both the fixtures. That's out of the window. Don't even expect that. But even if he's playing 90, he's not had a lot of pace in him in recent games. It looks like he's lost pace. Looks like I mean, he was never very, he's been an okay finisher. I would still not say that he's a clinical finisher, but he does, miss a lot of chances as well. So I'm not very sure about his potential. Plus the fact that his missed minutes are also at a bit of a risk, so I don't like him. I'd rather go for an Enciso. I'd rather go for an Alvarez, playing for better teams, and playing for much more premium attacks, better attacks, also being better picks in isolation. So I think those would be the options. Salah, March, and Zuma to Fernandes, Mahrez, and Estupinian for a -4, or March and Watkins to Mahrez and Sisu for no hit. I personally won't take out Salah. Even if you're chasing, I think I would still take my chances with the March plus Watkins to a Mahrez plus Enciso. I think this is great if you are chasing. If you're going defensive, I still feel taking out Salah is a huge loss, because I think there's a lot of potential in Salah. But in case if you want to safeguard your, maybe your rank, I still feel Salah is going to be very highly owned. So not having him is anyways going to result in a rank loss, especially if he scores a lot of points and he gets a major haul this week. So I think still, if you're going a bit defensive, do the -4 move with Fernandes, Mahrez, and Estupinian. But otherwise, I'd still try to gain through a Mahrez plus NC. So I think they're higher upside picks. Yes, they can go absolutely wrong considering the fact that they may just start one game, may get benched in the other, may even not complete 90 minutes in that one game that they start. That's a possibility. But I'll still take my chances. It's a more aggressive move, and I'll keep hold of Salah. I think I personally still feel that Salah is better. I mean, it's not the popular opinion here, but I still feel Salah has higher potential than Fernandes this particular week and the next week as well. If you see all, Salah in 37, 38 versus Bruno Fernandes in 37 double plus a 38, I still feel Salah is probably going to outscore a Bruno Fernandes. Isak to Alvarez for no hit, I'll definitely do it. I'll take out Isak, I'll get an Alvarez, high upside move. May not play both games, I mean, may not start both games. I still feel he features in both games, but with a Man City attacker, with Alvarez in particular, we've also seen that he can come from the bench, he can score goals, he can give you points. So I think in isolation, Isak to Alvarez without a hit is absolutely gold. I think you should definitely do it. Uh, Lil Whiskey or squad is Steele, Raya, Trent, Nathan Ake, Shaw, Trippier, Botman. In midfield, you have Rashford, Grealish, Salah, McAllister, Mitoma. Among your forwards, you have Isak, Haaland, and Solanke. Is it worth a -4 for Ake to Lindelof and Solanke to Alvarez? I mean, Solanke to Alvarez definitely I mean, it looks a fine option. But I'm assuming you'll do the Ake to Lindelof or Ake to Lindelof move to gain cash. I mean, it's a risk because Lindelof also may not start both games. I mean, that's a high possibility. Maybe Shaw, plays as a centre back with Varane, and then in that scenario, Van Bissaka and Dalot are both playing on the white side, of the defense. So that's always a possibility. But I think, I mean, yeah, I'll. It depends, right? If you're taking a bit of a punt, if you're taking a bit of a risk, if you want to chase a little bit, I think this is a fine move. But with Lindelof, it's definitely a risk. I mean, with Alvarez also, there's a slight risk. So understand that they might get benched for one game. But I think both of them definitely start one at least. What's the deal with the minimum 5 matches played in the Premier League for a medal? Is this including FA? No, it's not including FA and EFL Cups. I think I don't think so. It's including FA and EFL Cups. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you have to play 5 matches in the Premier League. If so, is Ortega likely to come in for Man City once the title? I mean, he definitely can come in. He can even come in again. I don't think so. He comes against Man City, against Chelsea. Sorry, I think Man City is probably going to play a very strong lineup against Chelsea to finish the league and to complete the title. But again, I still have to check it. We can quickly check that as well. I'm just checking in terms of what's the current Premier League rules on medals. Yeah, so they have to make five or more Premier League appearances. So it's not the FA Cup, it's not the EFL Cup, it's not any other tournament or competition in England, across England. It's basically Premier League. So in case if Ortega has to get a Premier League medal, he has to start at least 2 of the 3 games, and that's a high possibility because Edison may start the first game against Chelsea, and then Ortega may come against Brighton, and then also plays the final game. Because if Man City has won the league, I think Edison can definitely get a rest, and if they want to go in that direction, so Edison is also not nailed. I mean, I would in fact say none of the options, maybe apart from Haaland, is probably nailed because Haaland is still chasing records, he's still making records, and he's still a high confidence player. He's scoring a lot of goals. They can manage Haaland, and I still think he's going to start at least 2 of the next 3 for Man City, and that's what it is. I think there's a high chance that Edison doesn't play the final 2 games, the second of 37 and then the 38 game week as well. Luis Diaz instead of Salah playing wildcard. No, I'll still go Salah. I think I'll try to do things a bit differently here by maybe going with Mahrez, by maybe going with a City triple attack, let's say by going with Haaland, Mahrez, and Alvarez. I think those would be my moves. I'll try to get in Fernandes and Rashford both. Maybe if you want to go against Rashford, maybe you can even target something like an Anthony, for example, and get in Rashford and get in Fernandes. Sorry, also have Salah. I don't think so. It's worth it going against Salah. I think I personally don't think Luis Diaz can cover off Salah in any way. Salah is also on penalties. He's the best attacker for Liverpool, and I don't think so that's going to change in the next 2 weeks. Edison, Trent, Estupinian, Shaw, McAllister, Salah, Rashford, Bruno Eze, Enciso, Haaland, Mitoma to Eze, Grealish to Bruno, Isak to Enciso. So that basically, so you have Edison. I think in that scenario, you are letting go of a Man City player. I think you're letting go of a Man City midfielder. So you have two Man City midfielder, two Man City players. If you think that's fine, that's good to go. You go for it. I still feel. I mean, I'll again, right? If let's say if you are in a mini league, etc., and if your rival has Bruno, I think, and if you're playing defensive, I think this is a great transfer to make. But in case if you in case you are not considering that, in case if you're going for higher upside option, I still think you can have Edison. You can have maybe you can change Grealish to a Mahrez if money allows that, and then you can have Isak to NC. So I mean that's absolutely fine as well. Mitoma to Eze, I mean, I still feel there is potential in Mitoma, and it's taking out too high upside. I mean, Mitoma is probably not a high upside option, but I still feel he's probably going to do okay. I mean, Eze is the one to go for if you're looking at Crystal Palace, but I mean, I'm not very confident. Depends, right? In isolation, these moves are okay because you are getting Eze. There's decent potential. Bruno has a double, so you are fine there as well. And Ciso may or may not play both. There's a possibility of that happening. If you're chasing massively, I think I'll rather go Mahrez if that's possible rather than Bruno. If you're going defensive and safe, I think then you basically do Grealish to Bruno and not a Grealish to a Mahrez, for example. Hey Syed, hello to you. Welcome to the stream. It's going great. Not been feeling that great. In fact, have been a bit under the weather since last week. I think it's been a week and a half. Voice was completely gone. Was not able to record a lot, speak a lot. It's still not perfect, but hopefully it gets better. Stones, Grealish, Botman to Trent, Estupinian, Mahrez for a -8. I like it. Stones, Grealish, both can miss out on one game. Trent, Estupinian, they look like they're going to play. I mean, Trent definitely plays this week. Estupinian also looks like he's going to definitely play. And Mahrez is a good, safer pick to go for. Stones and Grealish both haven't started the last 2 games. I mean, your patience has run out. I mean, that's fine. I think a lot of people do get impatient, especially with Man City options. But I think that's where, you kind of become a different or a better FPL manager. I think we have to be patient with Man City options. But considering there are only 2 game weeks left, I think it's fine. Mahrez is, as I said earlier in the stream, I think Mahrez is probably the only player or the only outfield attacker, I think, who gives me a little bit confidence in terms of getting 2 starts. I think Haaland gets 2 starts, but beyond that, I'm not very sure about what happens with the other Man City attackers. I think they start one, they are benched for one. Alvarez or Bruno, Shaw for a -8, worth it. It depends again. Depends on the mini league, depends on your position, depends on your strategy, depends on your objective. It sounds a lot similar, all of it, but yeah. I think if you're chasing, I think Alvarez is a great option. If you're going safe, then I think you go with Bruno and Shaw. Higher upside is definitely with Bruno. For a -8, I think at this point, hits are fine. It's not. I know a lot of people say that you need multiple weeks to cover off hits and all that stuff. I think it really depends on whether you're okay taking a bit of a risk, whether you're chasing, etc. If you are, I think going with somebody like an Alvarez is absolutely fine. In case if you want to cover off your rank, in case if you want to go defensive, getting in a Bruno is absolutely fine as well. Even for a -8, I think it's okay. I have Edison, Grealish, and Haaland. I can't get Alvarez. Should I keep Isak or go for somebody else? I mean, that's the problem, right? The Edison pick was not a great pick because the fact that he is blocked us or most of the FPL managers to get a third Man City player or a second Man City attacker or a third Man City attacker. And I think that's not, or that was not ideal at that point of time. But now that you are in this position, I don't know who are your other Man United options. Maybe you can downgrade or change Edison to a David De Gea. So that kind of gives you that additional spot, and then maybe you can change one of your attackers. I'll probably have to look at your entire team, and then I can suggest you better. But I think even having Edison, Grealish, I mean, when see the logic here says that when most of the Man City options are at a risk of rotation, they're probably just going to start one game. Then why not take that risk with a Man City attacker, right? I mean, you might just end up getting lucky, and you might just end up getting some 10, 12 points, which an Edison is most likely not going to give you, right? So that's a logic. That's on paper, but what happens in the match is a completely different story, and it may or may not happen this way. But yeah, I mean, if you have a United spot open, Edison to David De Gea, and then maybe going for a Mahrez if you have a midfield spot open. If not, then you can get probably Alvarez. That's also fine. If you don't have a United spot open, let's say if you have Rashford, Bruno, and Shaw, then in that scenario, just go with it. I mean, it's not ideal, but it's fine. You might still end up getting some points with these players as well. So in that case, you can keep Isak. I probably the only player I'll sell Isak for is probably you know is going to be Alvarez. In case if you are maybe looking for cash, for example, I mean, there can be a couple of scenarios here as well. In case if you're looking for cash, you can maybe go for NC. So that also comes with the caveat that you have a Brighton spot open. Now, if you don't have a Brighton spot open, that also kind of goes out of the window. The other option is maybe go towards Gabriel Jesus in case if you're chasing, in case if you're going aggressive. I think Gabriel Jesus for the next couple of weeks would still be fine for 37 and 38 basically. Arsenal have had a great season and they would want to finish the season strongly now. Whether they are, demotivated, whether the shoulders are down, whether they are not able to churn out those performances is something that we'll probably get to know this week. And then we can probably make some assumptions for 38. But I think Gabriel Jesus would definitely want to, Gabriel Jesus and Arsenal would definitely want to end the season, sorry, very strongly. And if you have the budget, maybe that is an option. But yeah, if nothing works for you, just keep the same team, keep the same set of 3 players for Man City, and just pray that these guys do really well this week. I'm first in my main league by 2 points. Second has triple captain left. That's worrisome. He has 5 to 7 double game weeks. I have 6 to 7 double game weeks. Is it worth Grealish to Bruno, March to McAllister, and Isak to Greenwood? I mean, depends, right? If let's say if you see 2 points is hardly anything. 2 points, that person can easily make up 2 points with a triple captaincy as well, right? I mean that even if the triple captain blanks, I'm assuming that it's going to be Haaland most likely. Even if Haaland blanks for both weeks, I think he will still outscore your team, in terms of absolute points. And if he has, let's say Bruno Fernandes, maybe you can go a bit defensive here and get in Bruno Fernandes. So Grealish to Bruno and then March to McAllister. Again, depends on what players he has. And if you want to go aggressive, so there are 2 ways to look at this. Either you try to protect your position, try to counter his moves. If he has Bruno, you get in Bruno. If he has Grealish, you stick to Grealish. If he doesn't have Bruno, don't get Bruno, right? That's one way. That's the defensive play. The other play is to basically attack a little bit, where let's say if he doesn't have Bruno, right? And now you're getting Bruno. So that's kind of an advantage. Maybe he doesn't get Bruno by the deadline. That's also an option. I still think he will. But if let's say he doesn't, then I think you can go aggressive, go attacking, get Bruno. And I think in that scenario, that option is fine. I don't know if he has McAllister or not, or how many Brighton players does he have or not. And in any scenario, I don't think so you're changing the number of Brighton players in your team. You're just changing the particular player. And I think the extra player who's on your bench, basically the March pick who was on your bench, is probably going to play as a McAllister this week. Sorry. So I think it's in isolation again. I think these are absolutely fine moves. But yeah, I mean, you can go player by player with his team. You can analyze what kind of moves he's making. You can predict whether he's gonna get in players like he doesn't have Bruno, Salah, or Trent. So you have both Liverpool players. So I may go aggressive. I mean, yeah, he also has McAllister, which I want to block. So that's the exact strategy here. You block with a McAllister. You get in Bruno. And now he may get Bruno to counter your move as well. I mean, the way you are thinking, he'll also think the same way, right? So You get in Bruno, you counter that move. In case if he gets it, you're already at an advantage with a Salah or a Trent. I don't think so. He can get both Bruno or Salah again. Maybe he takes a few hits, maybe he takes chances, etc. But I still think he's probably going to get one of those players. And yeah, I think with the McAllister block, I think you should be in a good position to block his move. Let's just hope and let's just pray that whatever triple captain he does, maybe he gets Fernandes, he gets that triple captaincy on Fernandes, maybe it's on Haaland. Haaland doesn't really go crazy, right? Because if Haaland scores about 20, 30 points, then it's going to be a bit tricky because that's definitely an advantage that he has right now. So we'll keep our fingers crossed. We'll hope and pray that Haaland or whosoever he's triple captaining doesn't really give you or give him a lot of points. And then you can, beat him in your mini league. Bench one out of Wilson, Mitoma, and Grealish. I'll definitely bench Wilson. Mitoma looks like he starts both. Grealish definitely starts one. It's still Man City. It's still Grealish we're talking about. I think there's still potential here. So I think I'll still take my chances. Bench Wilson, start Mitoma and Grealish. Whom should I captain this week? I'm chasing in my league. Depends on who you have. I mean, I don't know if you have a Bruno Fernandes. If you do, he's an option. I still feel somebody like a Salah is a better pick. That's not a very popular opinion. And if you don't agree with that opinion, don't captain Salah in that scenario. You go for Fernandes. I would not look at Brighton options. The Man City game is what troubles me a little bit. Now, it could be a high-scoring game. Man City may play their second team. I mean, their second team is still a very strong first team for a lot of teams. That's the other side of it. But I still think if you have players like Alvarez, maybe Amares, I think those are better options. Those are good options as well if you're chasing. So, and I still feel they're better options than going with somebody like a McAllister or a Mitoma. I think the order would be, I mean, Haaland is probably safe. So the person ahead of you is probably anyways going to captain Haaland. You don't captain Haaland. You look at Fernandes as the second option when chasing. Then you look at Salah, and then are those risky punts with an Alvarez or Amares. I won't even look at Grealish. I won't look at Gundogan. I personally don't think Gundogan. Yes, he ends the season very strongly, but they are more higher upside, more risky picks. But I think they're better picks than Gundogan. Again, not a very popular opinion, but I think I think you go there when you're chasing. Why Grealish? I still have Grealish because I wanted to get in Bruno Fernandes. I could only get in Fernandes if I had also gotten some cash by downgrading an Isak or by changing an Isak basically. So and I'm okay. I mean, Grealish looks like he's going to start the Chelsea game, may play 60, 70 minutes and may not feature at all in the final game. I mean, of Game Week 37, may even come from the bench. I mean, that's always a possibility, but I think I'm still okay going in for the Fernandes plus Alvarez combination, then changing out Grealish for Amares. Yes, there could be a decent haul difference between the both, but I still think it's probably not going to be as high. Alvarez for me looks like a high upside punt. He can come from the bench, he can score goals. We've seen that he can score those braces, play 15, 20, 30 minutes and even get a good haul. So I'm hoping for that to happen, and I'm kind of going a bit safer with the Fernandes move. So that's my thinking, and I think Grealish overall, I mean, it's not that Mahrez is a huge difference in terms of the difference over Grealish. I think it's still pretty close. Yes, Mahrez for me, for a lot of people, is probably a player who is most likely going to get 2 starts out of all the Man City attackers apart from Haaland, and that logic I totally get. But I don't think so in terms of ceiling or in terms of points is going to be a huge difference. Best captaincy for differential other than Bruno and Haaland. You go either Salah. If you are not convinced, if you're not happy, if you feel that he's just having one fixture, it's against Aston Villa, maybe tricky, maybe difficult, etc., 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 you probably just look at somebody like an Alvarez or a Mahrez, depending on which one you have. If you have both, I'll probably look at, if I'm going a little bit safer there as well. I don't think that there are any safe options among both. But if I'm going a little bit safer, you go Mahrez. If you're going a little bit more punty, you look at somebody like an Alvarez. I think that would be my thinking. Thank you and wish me luck. All the best to you. I really hope you come out on top. All of you, in fact, come out on top of your certain mini leagues, respective mini leagues, whosoever, whichever you're a part of. Is Mahrez starting? I think he's likely to definitely get. I mean, he's definitely looking like he's gonna get 1 start, may even get 2 starts, and that's what I'm thinking. Still better than options like a Foden, for example. Maybe even better than a Grealish, for example, in terms of overall minutes. this particular week. I'm chasing in my league. What do you think, Bruno? What do you think on Bruno or Salah captaincy? Also, I've got Alvarez. If you're chasing, the safer option is Bruno. I still feel the higher point ceiling is with a Salah or maybe with an Alvarez. So I'll probably look at Salah Alvarez. If you're not happy with Salah with a single fixture, you go Alvarez. If you want to go with a safer option, you go Bruno. I still feel Alvarez looks like a more punty, more risky option. So in case if you're let's say if you're maybe about 10 or 15 points behind, you maybe look at a Bruno. If you are more than 20, 25, 30 points behind, you definitely go Alvarez. Anthony plus Alvarez. I think Alvarez for me is the better option out of the two in terms of captaincy. As a pick, I mean you can argue, but I think I would still want to captain. If Rashford was fit, I think Rashford would have been the best captaincy option from Man United, not even Bruno Fernandes, because I think the ceiling with Fernandes is definitely lower than a Rashford. But out of the two, I think Alvarez is the better option to go for. Captain Haaland or Fernandes. Safer is Haaland. If you're chasing, then it's Fernandes. What are your transfer plans this week? I've already made my transfers. I basically had Rashford, so I had one free transfer, and to do the Fernandes move, and I wanted Fernandes in my team, so I had also had to get some cash. I had not sure how much money I had, but basically I need some cash, so I've downgraded or I've changed, Isak to an Alvarez. Is there a price difference though between the two? I'm not very sure. I'll quickly check that. Yeah, of course there is. 0.9, almost 1 million is the price difference. So yeah, Alvarez to Isak to Alvarez as a downgrade to basically facilitate Rashford to a Bruno Fernandes. Now you might question, why are you taking out Rashford and why not both? Maybe take out a Grealish, for example. I still am betting on the fact, and I'm really betting on the fact that somebody like a Rashford doesn't get a start against Bournemouth, and even if it's a second game, maybe he gets a start, maybe he gets hooked off at about 60-65 minutes. Depends on, again, how United are doing, what is the objective of the game, have they already qualified for the Champions League, are they still in the fight, are they losing the fight for Champions League, etc., etc. But yeah, I'm taking that risk. It's a big risk because Rashford is still decently owned. I think there is some decent potential with Rashford in terms of ownership, and there could be some rank loss here, but I'm taking my chances and let's see what happens. Any news for Rashford? Do you think he'll start? I personally think, if you ask me, that's my assumption. I think he gets benched for the Bournemouth game. May not even come from the Bournemouth game if he's not recovered from illness. And I have a feeling that he starts the game against Chelsea. It's an important game. I think we'll probably still have to win that game to, certain or make our position certain for the Champions League. So I think he starts the Chelsea game, and he probably, if he's maybe even close to 70-80% fitness, maybe 90% fitness, he maybe comes to the last 10-15 minutes. But I think he's definitely getting benched for the first game. Should you sell him? Depends on the risk that you want to take. Depends on if you're fighting in your mini leagues for positions, if you are going aggressive in terms of ranking. I think a lot depends on that as well. The safer move is to play, if you can play Fernandes and Rashford both together, you do that. I think that kind of safeguards your rank. And if you have a Salah as well, I mean that's gold, I think, for you. But yeah, if you're chasing, then I think you probably can take a chance with Rashford and bet on his minutes getting limited this week. Edison for Raya for a -4. Don't see Kepa keeping a clean sheet. Try to retain rank. If you're trying to retain rank, I mean it's a fine move, but I think Edison is. There's also a chance that Edison doesn't start the second game. I understand that it's a safer move because Edison's I think ownership is also decently high. I mean, let's just quickly check how much owned he is. I think if you're trying to protect rank, trying to safeguard your position, you look at your rival as well. If your rival also has Edison, you definitely get an Edison, irrespective of the fact whether Edison gets a start, no start, both starts, doesn't really matter because your rival will also be in a similar position. So I think he's 15.5% owned. I think his ownership is going to be decently high. A lot of people might even go for him if they are not able to get to a third Man City attacker. I think they might still look at him as a safer option. A lot of people might not even think that he can get benched for the second game of Gaming 37. Yeah, I think if you're trying to retain rank, I think it's not ideal because the ceiling with Edison is not generally very high. I mean, you ultimately might end up getting the best of the best points, which is 12 points, and then let's say if Raya also keeps a clean sheet somehow, you maybe get that 8 point advantage. But I still feel it's not going to be a huge difference. Yeah, in if this was a mini league position question, I think you probably I would have said that do this, but I think it's not going to be a huge difference in terms of retaining rank at the end of the day. Mitoma to Mahrez or Rashford to Mahrez. I think I'll still take my chance with Rashford to Mahrez. I know it's risky, so in case we're going to go a bit safer, maybe. I mean, both players have high ownership, right? So you are ultimately taking a chance. You're dipping in a pool where you can absolutely get drowned, and you can lose a lot of points and rank. But considering that Mitoma starts both and he's not injured, he's fit to play, I think I'll still take my chances with the Rashford. Basically, Rashford out and Mahrez in. Trippier to Trent and Martinelli to Mahrez, or Botman to Trent and Grealish to Mahrez. I think I'll again. I don't know if you can bench Martinelli, and if you maybe playing a 3-4-3, or I don't know what will you be doing. But I think in isolation, Botman to Trent, Grealish to Mahrez looks like the better move. But if you have to use the Martinelli position, then you do Trippier to Trent, and I mean Trippier to Trent is a slightly risky move because Trippier has also a very high ownership. Botman's ownership is not really going to hurt you a lot, even if they get a clean sheet. Yes, it's still going to give you some rank loss, but I don't think so. It's going to be as high as a Trippier clean sheet, right? So depends on again the risk that you want to take. If the risk that you are willing to take is high, then you do the first option. Otherwise, you stick with the second one. Chasing 30 points, Bruno Mahrez, Haaland captain. I'll take my chance with the Mahrez captain. I know it's not ideal for a lot of people because they think that maybe Bruno has better potential. Maybe he has. I personally don't think so. The ceiling is that high with the Bruno, and I think I'll take my chance with the Mahrez captain. Start Rashford or Trippier. I'll start Rashford for sure. There's still a chance that he plays one. And of course, Newcastle doesn't have a double, so they're anyways playing one single fixture. So I think you take a chance with Rashford. If you have him, you take a chance. Hey Surya, hello to you. Kepa, Trippier, Shaw, Whitestones, McAllister, Mitoma, Grealish, Rashford, Haaland, Jota as your 11 subs. Raya, Chilwell, Tony, Tete. Try to play free hit. Whom to bring in? If I'm free hitting, I won't go Grealish. If I'm free hitting, I'll do Haaland plus Alvarez plus Mahrez. I think this combination is not generally owned. Either people are gonna get Alvarez, Haaland plus Grealish. Either people are gonna go for Haaland plus Grealish. Maybe a defender, maybe an Edison or a Stones. Now that you're on a free hit, you can actually go Haaland, Alvarez, and Mahrez. I think that's a better combination to go for. On a free hit, I'll still take my. I mean, I would. If you want to go a little bit safer on a free hit, you do Rashford plus Fernandes. In case if you in case if you want Salah in your team, I mean, if you can get in Salah plus Fernandes, you do that. Otherwise, you do Salah plus Rashford. Other than that, I still don't think so. I'll go Stones, to be very honest. I won't go White. I will play a back three with Shaw, Trent, and an Estupinian. I think that's what I'll do. McAllister plus Mitoma is absolutely fine. And I'll also won't go for Jota. I will. I mean, not a lot of people have those triple ups on Man City in terms of the attack, so I'll probably look there. And yeah, Salah no Salah is probably the call that you have to take. Either way, depending on your risk, you can go for that particular option. I'm 20 points behind a mini league rival, Captain Mahrez or Alvarez. I mean, with 20 points, I think Mahrez is probably jumps out a little bit more. Higher chance of maybe starting both games. Mahrez has more assist potential, more creativity potential, whereas Alvarez has a higher, goal scoring ceiling, if that makes sense. But yeah, I think I'll still take my chances with the Mahrez. I think there's potential for him to start both games, and I'll push my luck there. Isak to Martial, voice is completely gone. Isak to Martial and Bowen to Fernandes. Don't like Isak to Martial. If there's a Man City spot open, I'll probably look at Alvarez. If not, then I'll just try to downgrade it and maybe go for a different option. I don't think so Martial starts both. I don't think so he plays more than 16 both. I don't think so his overall minutes are going to be more than 100 across both. And I don't like him as a pick at all. That's my opinion. I don't think so he has the same goal scoring threat. I don't think so he has the same pace in him and the same fitness levels at all. So not a good pick to me. Is Trent to Lindelof a good choice? I don't think so. Trent definitely. I mean, there's no question about it. Maybe in terms of clean sheets, Man United can rival Liverpool, whether it's 1-2 or whatever. But I think in terms of absolute attacking threat, overall points, there's no competition here. Does Rashford play? looks like he's probably going to get benched for the first game, starts the second one. Depends on the illness. I'm not sure the illness is probably going to be that. See, the gap between both games is also pretty decent. So I think, Rashford can definitely start the second game. I need to catch up in the league lead to the league leader. Is starting Tierney over Estopinian not a wise idea? I mean, depends, right? If the league leader, for example, has Estopinian, I mean, I'll still counter Estopinian with Estopinian and try to differentiate with other options. I think Estopinian against Southampton could be a massive haul, even if he gets a couple of points against Man City. I think against Southampton, he can easily get a 10-pointer haul. And I would not want to bet against that. Arsenal is facing Nottingham Forest. Nottingham Forest at home still looks like a good fixture for Forest. I think they're definitely going to play a lot better. And it's difficult to predict right now what kind of Arsenal team is going to turn up. Whether it's going to be motivated heads coming out, whether it's going to be dropped shoulders and not playing the football that they've showcased the entire season. And that's the worry with Arsenal players right now. I think for me, I would still want to see this week what happens and how Arsenal are playing this week, and then maybe take a punt on one of their attackers next week. I mean, that's also an option because next week is Wolves, right? I mean, they can absolutely smash Wolves, play the best football that they have this season. I think they can do really well. So I think I'll still get, or if I have Estupinian, I'll play Estupinian. I'll try to differ among the Man City mids, the double ups of Fernandes and Rashford, maybe Salah. Those are the other options that I'll probably try to differentiate with. Would you do Rashford to Anthony if he's out for one game? I mean, it's risky, right? There is potential, but I think still would play Rashford. I think Rashford still do okay in the second game if he plays. If you're chasing, right? If you're massively chasing or aggressive, you do the move. I think it's fine in isolation. But personally, if this was me, I'll probably hold Rashford. Grealish to Maris for a -4 or Isak to Alvarez. I think I'll do Isak to Alvarez. I'll hold Grealish. Should I do Rashford to Fernandes and Isak to Alvarez? Yeah, I mean, if you for a hit, I think it's also absolutely fine. I think it's an okay move to make. I mean, I've done the same, so I think it should be okay. Watkins and Martinelli to Alvarez and Mahrez. Watkins and Martinelli to Alvarez. Mahrez absolutely fine moves. Watkins and Martinelli to Fernandes and Greenwood. I think I like the Alvarez plus Mahrez combination. Risk is there with minutes. With Fernandes, you're probably going to get 180 minutes. If you're countering somebody in your mini league who already has Fernandes, you then get in Fernandes. But if it's in isolation and if you are trying to catch up on rank, go aggressive, etc., then I think Alvarez plus Mahrez looks like a strong combination. Think of Mahrez and Alvarez for differential. Just need to hope Fernandes doesn't go crazy. I mean, that can always happen, but the vice versa could also happen, and we might end up losing a lot of rank. But yeah, I think just go for it. I think Mahrez, Alvarez, just give it a shot. Let's see what happens, and yeah, I think that should be fine. Sorry if it was answered before. No problem. Best captain to differentiate from the league leader. I think the league leader is probably gonna captain Haaland. If you have, let's say who you have, Edison, Trent, Shaw, Estupinian, Alvarez, Anthony, Salah, Rashford. I'll probably go. I can say Alvarez twice, but I'm assuming it's only one Alvarez. I think it's probably going to be between Salah and Alvarez, and if I have to choose between the both, depends on the number of points you're far right behind. Let's say if you maybe are about 20, 25, 30 points behind, I'll take a chance with Alvarez. If the difference is probably in single digits, maybe about 10, 15 points, I'll probably take a chance with Salah. I think that would be the logic here. Will Liverpool catch up Man United, Newcastle? What do you think? I'm worried about the Chelsea game for United. I'm also worried about the Fulham game. So I think Newcastle still look fairly comfortable. They have Leicester and Chelsea. I still feel Newcastle will win both games. I mean, Chelsea away could be anything, right? I mean, again, don't know what kind of Chelsea team is probably going to turn up for that. We are also facing Chelsea, but we are facing them at home. So I'm a little bit more comfortable there. I'm worried about the Fulham team as well. I mean, it's going to be tricky, but I think, Liverpool definitely has the best set of fixtures. United does have an extra fixture, so there's more potential. But I think, let's see. I mean, there is a chance. I have a feeling that, one of Newcastle or United maybe could trip, and Liverpool might just sneak into the top four. Grealish to Mahrez for a -4. If you have nothing else to play, if you have no other transfers to make, in case if you want to safeguard, maybe go aggressive. I think it's a fine move. If you are planning to play defensive, don't do it. Just keep hold of Grealish and don't take a hit. Like Captain Rashford, I mean, I think if you are captaining a United player, I think I'll go Bruno Fernandes. Um, yeah, I think that would be my preferred option. But I mean, if you want to go absolutely crazy and take a chance, you go for it. But I still would either go Bruno. If I'm going for United player, I'll go Bruno. Otherwise, I'll probably look at a Salah or an Alvarez or a Mahrez. What's the progress of your long hair growing journey? I mean, it's still going on. I mean, still, I think in terms of the length, it's probably gone below the nose. I think still some way to go, still a few months to go. But yeah, let's see. By hopefully by sometime by the end of the year, let's see what how it looks, and whether it really comes off the way I'm imagining. If it does, it'll be absolutely great. Okay, guys, a couple of more minutes to go. In case if you have any more questions, please feel free to shoot those in the chat. If you've not subscribed to the channel, please do that as well. Please hit the like button. It really motivates me and helps us with the YouTube algorithm as well. We want to reach more people. We want more people to find us, and you doing small little things like these would really help us or help the channel grow. Thank you so much again for joining the stream as well, and thank you so much if you've stuck around for the entire season. We're ending the season, and let's just hope that we end the season very strongly, and we come back again with the same level of motivation, with probably even more motivation, and do better next season as well. Yeah, last 1 minute to go. If you have not made your transfers, just please do that. Don't keep it till the very end, because servers, you just never know, they may crash any moment. Anything can happen, and your teams may not get saved at the end. Personally, for me, I'm also just going to quickly check my team. Potman, Trippier on the bench, Greenwood on the bench, Raya on the bench. Captain is Haaland, vice captain is Fernandes. I think it looks good to go. Hat trick for Alvarez and Bruno. Let's just really hope. It's been a frustrating time in FPL. I mean, looking at my rank, since the last 4 weeks, I was stuck at 30k, 33, 31, 33, 31. I was moving around that. Wilson absolutely smashed our rank last week. And yeah, so by the way, deadline, it's deadline. All the best. I really hope you were able to save your teams, make your transfers. Thank you so much again for joining as well. But yeah, I was just talking about Wilson and how he smashed. I'm sure he would have, if you had him and you captain him, hats off to you. Great move. I didn't have him. I didn't captain him. And the rank loss, especially against at Brighton, in the Brighton match, when he, in that span of a few minutes, maybe he just absolutely bottled our game week. And I'm sure a lot of people also struggled with that as well. But 43k, let's see if we can maybe get towards 25k. I don't think so. 10k is possible. Maybe 25, 30k is still possible. Let's see what happens. Really need Fernandes to come off. I think more than Fernandes, I think Fernandes' ownership is still probably going to be around 60, 70, maybe slightly even more if a lot of people are, captaining him, maybe 70, 80%. But I think Alvarez could be a great differential. So let's see. Relegation battle is very funny and excited as well. I mean, the title was also very exciting till the point, Arsenal kind of, I mean, it was a bottle job and Arsenal did bottle up, but not taking anything away from the Arsenal team, because they have been absolutely spectacular. I mean, we have to adjust our expectations considering the fact that where was Arsenal? They have not featured in the Champions League for such a long time. And now they've come back into the Champions League. They really gave a good fight to Man City for the title. Yes, they bottled it, but I think they will have, or they will become a better team and a stronger team in the coming time as well. So I think, yeah, it was a great battle for the title. Relegation is a bit weird because we saw Southampton getting relegated. There was a moment where West Ham was also in the relegation. That was a bit weird. Leicester might end up getting relegated. That's just, I mean, the kind of quality that Leicester has, a lot of it obviously comes down to the coaching, the management, and the way Brendan Rodgers really took that team. But I think that sort of quality, that sort of team should not get relegated. But that's what it is. That's the Premier League for you, for me, for all of us. I mean, Leeds, I still feel it's going to be the same, three teams. Southampton obviously already relegated. It's going to be Leeds and it's going to be Leicester. Do let me know if you think maybe a different team will probably get relegated. I personally think it's going to be the same three. I think Everton will just somehow sneak through, and yeah, I mean, I think Nottingham Forest are also pretty much safe. I don't think so, unless they really get battered by Liverpool and Leeds somehow get a victory and somehow come equal. I think maybe then in that scenario, Everton and Leicester get relegated. But I think it's probably going to be the same three teams. Thank you to all of you again for joining the stream. Best of luck to you, Sayed, as well. Hope everyone gets a green arrow. So nice of you. Except my mini league friends. I mean, yeah. At the end of the day, it's still a competition, right? We're facing each other. We are competing against each other in the mini leagues. And yeah, was priced out of doing Watkins, Martini, Trippier to Alvarez, Fernandes and Bueno for a hit by 0.1 million because of Watkins' price drop last night. So frustrating. I mean, yeah, it is frustrating. It's still weird that these price changes kind of lock us out of certain moves. But I mean, just take everything that you do in an FPL season, whether this or last season, as a learning. And if you're getting priced out regularly, maybe make your moves a little bit earlier than usual. But yeah, sometimes you have to. I mean, you have to kind of pick and choose your battles, right? Sometimes you can't really make these early moves because of the fact that now we've started getting leaks. We've started getting last minute information, which is not ideal. I mean, again, a lot of people say that it's great for the game. A lot of people say that it hampers the game. Do let me know what you think about the leaks coming in the last moment, in the last minute. It helps us getting those decisions right, especially if you're engaged in an active manager. But if you're not, if you just look at your team once or twice in the entire week, maybe just on the deadline day, maybe 2-3 hours before the deadline, you see the team and you just shut it off. In that scenario, you'll definitely be at a loss. And I think with the FPL community become more active and becoming more sincere in terms of finding all this information, I think it's just going to get trickier and difficult. Leicester from competing top four. I mean, yeah. Even if not top four, I mean, Leicester competing in the Europe or competing for European spots, and suddenly, I mean, not suddenly, but yeah, I mean, coming down to getting relegated is a huge drop. Triple captain Haaland or Bruno. If you were going safe, I think Haaland was the choice. If you're chasing, I think Bruno was the one to go for. So I did something. You did a -12. Edison, Pascal Gross, Robertson, Isak out. Steele, Shaw, Bruno, Alvarez in. I mean, might just absolutely be wonders and might work great. It's I mean, the options you've gone for Steele, Shaw, Bruno, Alvarez, I think they're great options. The rank gains might not be very high because of the fact that players like Shaw, players like Bruno will have a higher ownership anyway. But yeah, I mean, in terms of net points, absolute points, I think it could be fine. So basically, the question was Haaland, triple captain of Bruno. So see, the idea, it depends on a couple of factors as well. In isolation, the best option is still Haaland. Haaland is expected to start both games. He's still chasing records. He's still scoring a lot of goals. He's still pivotal to how Man City play and Man City attack. And everybody kind of is accustomed to feed Haaland and get him those goals, right? So I think Haaland will definitely. It's about Haaland starts. I think it's about the question whether KDB starts or not. Because if KDB doesn't start, I think Alvarez definitely gets a start, and I think that's definitely going to happen at least one of those games. So if I'm taking that risk of a triple captain this week, I necessarily don't think Brighton options are in the conversation. I don't think so. When I'm talking about triple captaincy, players like Grealish, players like Alvarez, players like Mahrez, unless you're massively chasing, maybe you're chasing by 30, 40 points, maybe 50 points, maybe even more, then you kind of go for these risky options. But I think in isolation, Haaland triple captain is still the safer option to go for. It's still the best option to go for because see, next week we don't know what's going to happen. It may be chaos. We might end up seeing score lines like 5-3, 4-3, 7-6. You just never know what can happen in the Premier League. I don't think so. A lot of teams are going to keep clean sheets in the final game. So defenders are anyways out of the question. So I think overall it's a bit tricky to predict what's going to happen in the final game. I mean, you could say that maybe you go for a Salah next week, playing against Southampton. That's also a triple captaincy option. But maybe Salah gets benched, maybe Salah gets rested. Anything can happen in the final game. And I think with the information that we know right now, with the Champions League games also out of the way, I think Haaland still starts both. Depending on what City play and how City play and what's the game state at that point in time, I mean, Haaland can absolutely get called off or subbed off at around 60 minutes, maybe even 45 minutes if Man City are winning by 2 or 3 goals. But I think Haaland is still the safer option to go for, unless, again, as I said, unless you're massively chasing. When I'm having a red arrow, I don't watch any information about FPL that whole week. And that happens, right? This week, I personally didn't uh, do a lot of research, do a lot of I mean, of course, I did research, but I didn't dip into the FPL space as I generally do. Of course, I was not well as well, but that green arrow was a bit weird. The red arrow, sorry, not even green arrow. The red arrow with Wilson was a bit frustrating because it could have been a very small red and it became a kind of a 10k sort of a red. I mean, still not that high, but it was just frustrating with the way it happened as well. Wilson was about to get subbed off, and Newcastle get a penalty. Wilson scores a penalty, gets those 3 bonus points as well. It was massively frustrating, but yeah, it gets a bit frustrating. Sometimes it's okay to switch off from FPL, and of course, at the end of the day, it's still a game. We have to remember it's a game, and we have to play it like one. We can't let it affect our regular lives, and it shouldn't. And the moment it's doing that, I think it's time to switch off and take a break. Now I'm going to watch my team Delhi get smashed against CSK. I mean, how can Delhi change in terms of IPL? I don't know. I personally felt, again, I'm not a huge cricket fan, and no disrespect to any cricket fan or IPL or cricket in general, but I watch cricket, in and out, and not very regularly, not very religiously. But I just don't understand what's happened to Delhi over the years. I've really felt that looking at their squad, looking at the auctions this year, that they had a decent team, but it's just not clicked. It's just not worked for them. And yeah, I mean, and CSK, of course, it's Dhoni's captaincy. I think, let alone what he's doing, in terms of his batting. Of course, he's playing down the order, and that's also a very different, direction that CSK and Dhoni has helped CSK take, or has taken for himself. But and I think it's also good the fact that he's fighting an injury. I think I'm not sure whether it's a knee injury or a or a thigh or a shoulder injury, but I think he is nursing a knock or an injury. But yeah, I mean, I think against CSK, I think they're absolutely going to get hammered. I've been supporting Delhi since two. I mean, since IPL started, I started supporting Delhi. I did watch IPL for a few years. Of course, Delhi didn't do shit. I mean, sorry for the language, but they didn't do anything at all. And then I kind of checked out of IPL in general. But yeah, I mean, what to do, right? The teams you support are the teams you support. And I mean, it's been Mumbai, it's been CSK for quite some time. Of course, with the new teams entering into the space, there may be a shift, but let's see what happens. This year's IPL has been actually quite interesting, and I think it's been a very close one. And let's see what happens. Currently sitting in 50k, reached 20k at the peak, but I followed a lot of transfer suggestions from the YouTubers. Not sure if I should be happy with the result or not. I mean, it depends, right? I know a lot of people won't say or won't agree or won't believe in it, but FPL is a lot of luck. Anyone who says otherwise, I think is just try to maybe show themselves as somebody who can really predict the future. Nobody can. Of course, based on certain data, based on certain information, you can draw parallels, you can draw conclusions, you can make assumptions, but at the end of the day, they're all assumptions, right? They're all how you are taking. I mean, 3 or 4 different people might have different takes on just one single player, right? And at the end of the day, all those takes might not be wrong, but they might be right in their own ways, but might be different in your way. So I think at the end of the day, you have to understand that it's your team. That particular content creator, me, somebody else is not handling that team for you, and that should not be the way, because it'll just suck the fun out of the whole game, right? Yes, content really helps in terms of more people getting aware, more people getting educated about what's happening in the FPL space week by week. But at the end of the day, it should be your decision. It should be your parallels, should be your gut feeling. I think this is a very underrated thing in FPL, where people don't really follow their gut feel. Because at the end of the day, if it's your gut feel, you won't be blaming others, or you won't be behind the back of other people saying that that person kind of made me make that transfer, and it's because of him that I lost a lot of rank, etc. So that should not happen. I think the ultimate objective is to have fun, is to become a better manager every year. Of course, keep playing, because it's actually a very fun game. And yeah, make better decisions, grow as a manager, and learn every year, and keep improving. I think that's what you do with FPL. I went with Son and Kane last double game week on a free hit, totally ruined my. I mean, yeah, it. So these are kind of the decisions that can make or break your season. Like last game week, a lot of us did go for a sack. Looked like the more logical move. I won't say he was probably the best move, but nobody even expected Wilson to start both games, play majority of both games, and that's what he did. See, something like that happened where he was just coming off. As a sub. I mean, he was going off the field. He was getting subbed basically, and then Newcastle suddenly get a penalty, and he takes that penalty, and then he goes off. I mean, you can't predict those kind of things, right? So I think it's fine. You at the end of the day, you do what you feel is right. You consume all the information to make an informed decision, but the other person or the person talking to you should not make the decision for you. That's what it is. My rank is 179k, bit of a forgetful season for me. That's fine. That's absolutely fine. I mean, 179k in isolation is also not a bad rank. Although only my second proper FPL season. I mean, yeah, last season got 66k, which is a great rank for the first season. But even 179k is absolutely fine. I mean, I've seen people having ranks of 1 million, 1.5 million, and they're still believing and they're still feeling that they have had a great season. So it really depends on how you are seeing the season. How serious are you as an FPL player, and what are your aspirations? Are you targeting those 5k, 10k, those kind of numbers? I mean, I still feel they're all superficial numbers at the end of the day, because with the number of managers, sorry for that, with the number of managers increasing every season, the 10k or the 100k, in Hindi we call it hawa, right? So that thing that is there, it's probably, that shift is probably gonna be different. That is gonna change, right? The new 10k might become the 100k, or might have already become the 100k this season, last season, or maybe in the coming seasons as well. So we have to temper the expectations here with with more engaged managers coming every season. I think it's going to be a bit difficult to crack those ranks, to make those gains. I mean, last season, I can personally see it myself. Last season, rank shifts were a very they were a massive thing at the end of the season. This season I have struggled myself, being around that 30k rank for 4 to 5 weeks, where there was no movement. Whatever transfers I did, whether I took hits, whether I saved on my hits, whether I played any chip or not, that rank was not moving, right? And that could become a common phenomena, until unless FPL then comes off with some interesting strategies, some interesting chips, which may make people think that yes, this probably is the right strategy, that probably is the right strategy, and may differentiate it from the massive crowd of FPL. Me in my mini league is like Arsenal, 90% time and sitting at top, then just came behind a few weeks ago. Now we are having 30 points. I mean, that's fine. That's fine. Do the best you can to close the gap, maybe to get ahead, whatever you can. But I think it's fine. You learn, you see, you assess your season. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. You see what kind of things you did, what kind of transfers you made, and then come back next season, with those learning, and try to implement those learnings, and across the FPL season, and try to become better at least making this. See, at the end of the day, it's all about making decisions, right? And on what information are you making these decisions? What is the rationale behind you using the chip, maybe taking a hit? Why not the other transfer? Why not this particular transfer? So that rationale should be very clear. That if you're following your gut feel, that should be very clear. I still don't agree with the fact that mostly people should copy teams. I mean, yes, they can copy teams. At the end of the day, content creators or people who are creating content in the FPL space, they're helping people. So even if they're copying teams, it's nothing, to be honest, it's nothing wrong, right? Because ultimately you are giving advice and people are following that advice, so that's fine. It also depends on how everybody in particular sees FPL. So I think everybody might have a different opinion. I might have a different opinion. You might think or see FPL in a very different way. Jumped on the train so late, Almiron, Mitoma, and this is also one very important thing, right? You have to kind of assess. And it happened last season as well with the likes of, I think, last season with Bowen, Antonio, with, I think it was last season with Lingard. I mean, we have to see these trends. It will happen every season. And take a shot. Why not take a shot, right? What's the worst that can happen? That player might not end up getting you points. You can easily transfer him out. But if he gets on that run, and gets you those goals, I think that could be gold. That could be a difference between, let's say, like a 20-30k and a 150k, for example, right? So we have to see these trends, we have to analyze, and then see what we can do from there. Great, guys. Thank you so much again for joining. It was lovely chatting with you, talking with you. There's one more stream left for the season, which is going to be the final stream, which is the Game Week 38 deadline stream. I hope to see you to see all of you there as well. We'll try to do a longer stream. It really depends on my voice and my throat. If I'm able to handle it, I'll probably do a longer stream. The last couple of streams have been about an hour, but we'll see if we can do a 2 hour long, maybe even longer, because it's the final game week, right? Final week to push ourselves to get the best ranks possible. But yeah, let's see what kind of content I can push out this week as well, because it really depends on my health and on whether I'm able to churn out stuff. But yeah, just keep a check on our YouTube channel, on our Instagram channel as well, and I'll keep you guys posted. All the best. Have a great week. Keep smiling. Have a great green arrow, hopefully, and I'll see you guys next week. Take care. Bye bye.